Hello, my name's Ian Anderson Gray, and in this episode of the Podcaster Hour, I'm sharing how you can create a successful run of show for your live shows and podcast. So, let's get on with it now.
Welcome to the Podcaster Hour from Ecamm, helping entrepreneurs, business owners, and live streamers launch a podcast with success using the power of Ecamm Live. Grow your audience and expand your reach, and learn how to plan, promote, produce, and repurpose your live show and podcast. Here's your host, Ian Anderson Gray.
Hello, everybody! Welcome to episode 5 of the Podcaster Hour. This is the show that helps you launch your podcast through the power of Ecamm Live. This show goes live every Monday at 4 p.m. in the UK. That's 11 a.m. Eastern and 8 a.m. Pacific. And in today's show, this is episode 5. It's all about how you can create a successful run of show for your live shows and podcasts. So, we're going to talk about loads of stuff today, but particularly about live shows and how you can structure your show for not just the live show, but for your podcast as well. Now, just before I started, I asked my live audience, what are the 3 audiences for your live shows? And if you're going to be editing it into a podcast. And so I think we got the right answer before. Let's just see. Where is it now? I can't find it now. No, somebody answered this. And it was CX Forums said podcaster, replay, and live stream. So that is correct. Those are the 3 main audiences for your live shows. So it's awesome. Just to say hello to my live audience here. Gwen is watching from Arizona. Jono watching from the UK. We've got Joanna from Angola. Oh my goodness, we've got Nobby Kleiman watching from Melbourne. It is 3 a.m. there. That's pretty extreme. I hope you're doing okay. David watching from Ashland, Oregon. Rob watching from Winnipeg. Yes, live audio replay and video replay. Yeah. Katie watching from the snowy, icy Buckinghamshire. Melissa saying, the listener, your ideal audience in the relevant platform. Awesome. So you do keep those comments coming. I can see David is watching from Massachusetts. Go for Technology from Tuscan, where the snow may fall later. It's kind of snowy out here as well. Dr. Geneva is watching from Michigan as well. Awesome. Well, keep those questions and answers. I don't know what I did there. There we go. So Katie's asking a question. She's actually put an A, but she did meant to put a Q. Don't worry. Everything's going wrong in my head today. But Katie asks, what was the right answer for the audiences again? Yeah, so just to go through that. So if you're doing a live show, the first people that watch your live shows are the people from the future. They're your replay audience. So it's always good to greet them first. And then, of course, you've got to think about your live audience. And I think people forget that. People forget, they either focus only on one. They either focus on the replay audience or they focus on the replay. And it is difficult. It is difficult to do that, to juggle that in your mind. But if you're going to be repurposing your live show into a podcast, you've got a third audience to think about, and that is your podcast listener. And it's important to think about that when you're doing your live shows, because your live audience, hopefully you've got a few people watching you, so that there's a kind of a party feel, a community feel to that. Your replay audience, though, again, you'll hopefully get lots of people listening and watching your live shows afterwards. In fact, most of the time, you'll get more people watching the replay than the live show. That's pretty much the case across the board. But when people do that, they listen or watch on their own. There's less of that community feel to it. So you've got to think about that in terms of your head. So there's more of the you plural when you're focusing on your live audience. There's the you singular for your replay audience. And then, of course, there's the podcast part of it. And that is you singular. You've got to think about focusing to the individual. But it's not just that. It's because podcasting is audio only most of the time. You've got to think about your show for an audio only audience as well. So I hope that answers your question. Yeah. I know you meant to put a cue at the beginning of it, but don't worry. I am Jason Allen says, watching from Utah. I'm sorry for asking this again. What are you using to fade the music in and out while broadcasting? I'm very glad you asked that question. Now, we did talk about this last week a little bit. I did cover this. So there are lots of ways you can think about doing this. The way I'm doing it is I'm using Mac software called Audio Hijack. And in Audio Hijack, you've got the ability to create different effects. You can add reverb, for example. But there's also a facility to add audio ducking. So what I've got is an audio track that I'm playing from my Stream Deck. And then I've got that in with my microphone. So it will then reduce the audio of the music while I'm speaking. Now, I have to have some extra software in there. So it's both from the same company. Rogue Amoeba, I think is the name of the company. So I have to combine that with Loopback. So it's not the cheapest software. All of this is going to cost you about $150, around that kind of price. But I love playing around with this stuff, and I think it's cool. I'd love to know, is that a cool thing? I think it's particularly good for podcasting. So let me know. Soul Bear watching from Winnipeg too. Great. I'd love to go to Winnipeg one of these days. We've got lots of Canadians in the house. Mark is from Edmonton, Alberta in Canada. So awesome. We've got loads and loads of people here watching. Frank is physically in Oklahoma, but my mind is on Mars. I know where you are. So I know what you mean. So let's talk about what we're going to be talking about today, which is a run of show. I do want to let you know about the previous episodes that we've so if you've just come in today, do check out the previous episodes. The first show I talked about how to plan your podcast and live show, and there's a lot of, in a sense, a correlation between what we're talking about today and that. But that first show was more about thinking about the whole show, not just the individual episodes, which is what we're going to be focusing on today. The second one was how to launch your podcast from your live shows using Ecamm. So that was an overview of how you specifically can use Ecamm Live. You don't have to use Ecamm Live, but Ecamm Live makes it so much easier for you with the facility of saving the isolated tracks of you and your guest and any other stuff that any other audio track that you're going to be playing on your live show. Then I had Colin Gray, my friend Colin Gray from Down Under. He's actually originally from Scotland. This was episode 3. This was Podcasting 101. And that was an awesome show. So we actually had to bring him in as a replay part of that, but I also answered live questions. Then this was last week, talked about Top Gear and tech for your live shows. And I gave some comparisons, live demos on different microphones as well. So that's what that was all about. So yeah, Katie has actually put a full playlist in the comments, so you can find out all of those. And all of these episodes are being turned into blog posts as well. So if you'd like to go back and do that and actually read the blog posts, you can do that. Okay, just before I get on with the show, just another reminder that I'm doing an amazing giveaway at the moment. This giveaway is, I'm giving away over $15,000 worth of amazing gear and tools and loads of cool things. This is all to do with live streaming. So this is live streaming and podcasting gear. For example, this microphone, you can get a really snazzy black version of this. This was actually a limited edition Heil PR40 microphone and loads of other cool stuff. Now, I'm going to just put this in the comments as well. So if you go to confident.live/giveaway, you can enter this. All you need to do is comment on that video and you'll be entered into the giveaway and you can win over $15,000 worth of that. So here's a quick video of that. And then we're going to get on with, I'm going to share with you my top structure and run of show. Can't wait to share that with you. So here is the giveaway.
And now on IAG TV,
it's the Confident Live Marketing Podcast giveaway! Launch your live show in just 10 days with the Launch Your Live course. Get the special Black Edition Heil PR40 microphone worth $329. Or the Elgato Stream Deck worth $189. Get Restream Pro 12-month subscription worth $490. Agorapulse Social Media Management, the large plan, worth $1,908. Ecamm Live Pro 12 months worth $349. 12-month subscription to the membership of the Podcast Host Academy. Amy Wood's Content and X book. 12-month subscription to Captivate FM. TubeBuddy subscription to the Legend plan worth $300. 12-month subscription to Wave Video Creator plan. Alitu 6-month subscription worth $200. Free podcast show intro and outro from Music Radio Creative. Free Jeff C's pop-out video course. Get 12-month subscription to the Easel Plus plan. And a free book, Podcast Growth by Colin Gray. Wow. So many amazing things to give away that I can't wait. And I'm going to be announcing that next week on February the 4th. I think that's a Thursday. So if you want to win one of those prizes, put I want to win in the comments. Just put I want to win in the comments. I'd love to know. But if you want to actually enter, you just need to go to confident.live/giveaway. So let me know in the comments. So it's now time to talk about a runner show. Why do you need one? Well, I think the first reason why you need a run of show, well, first of all, what is a run of show? If you just join me, a run of show is basically your show structure, a show structure. So this is the beginning, the middle, the end. It's all the segments to your live show. So that you can remember exactly what you're going to be talking about. And it will change depending on the type of live show that you have. If it's a solo show like I'm doing today, or a guest show. And I think it's just as important to have a run of show, whether it's a solo episode or a guest episode. But yeah, I think it's if you don't have a run of show on a solo episode, this is where problems can occur. So I've absolutely got a run of show here. I've got it printed out here. I've also got it in front of me. So yes, that's what I do. I've got loads of people saying I want to win. Oh my goodness, I can't even bring them all in. So Deanna's saying, wow, where is the link to enter? It's in the comments, confident.live/giveaway. Katie, if you wouldn't mind just putting that in the comments again, that would be great. confident.live/giveaway. Yeah, definitely want to win. DJ Strix is cool. Explanatory Live says, I want to win. Gwen says, want to win. We've got Mullane TV. We've got David. Melissa's already in. Thank you. Katie, who wouldn't want to win? So I won't go through all the people. Thank you so much for all of that. So why would you need actually to have a run of show? Well, the first thing is, I don't know whether you suffer from this, but I suffer from what I call brain mush syndrome. Anyone else suffer from that? And this is what happens when you press that go live button or, the record button, your brain goes to mush and you forget what you're going to say. And I always have to write the first couple of sentences that I'm going to say down, because even today, because sometimes my pressing that go live button does weird things to your brain. So don't trust yourself. Put down word for word the first couple of sentences so that you know you've got them in front of you. Now, for the rest of the show, don't write it word for word. I think that's really important. You don't want to become a robot. So people ask me this all the time. Should I write a script for my live shows? And my reply to that is no. Don't write a script. But do write the first couple of sentences and also the last couple of sentences down. And then for the rest of the show, I just do bullet points. I structure my show. And in today's episode, I'm going to be going through my exact steps for the majority of my shows, and you can basically nick it. You can steal it from me, which is great. Who doesn't want that? So the first reason you need one is brain mush syndrome. And also, secondly, I think this is a really important point. If you want to get the best engagement, then creating a run a show where it's structured in a way that's going to get that best engagement and create that best value for your audience, that's going to be really important as well. So that's really good to get the most engagement. So the third thing, so I've talked about brain mush syndrome, getting the best engagement. The third thing is all about the ability to repurpose. So you want to create a run of show that means you don't have to do so much editing. So in today's show, I had a live element at the beginning. That's not going to go onto the replay. That's not going to go into, if this was going to be turned into a podcast, that wouldn't go onto the podcast. But just from the beginning of the main section to the end, that will be the podcast. Now, you also might want to have elements where you want to interact with your live audience throughout the show. I don't think you need to edit those bits out, but you might find that some of those you might want to. So again, if you structure your show in a way that allows you to be able to edit it really easily later into the podcast, then you can do that. And we'll talk about that in a little bit. Okay, so that is why you need a run of show. And if you've got any questions, put it in the comments. Just remember to put a capital Q : and then the question, and I'll be very happy to answer that. I'm sure Katie is going to be there to remind me if there are any questions for that. But yeah, okay, so that is why. Where do you put your run of show? So do you write it out? Do you print it out? Do you put it on an iPad? Do you put it on your screen? Do you use a teleprompter? So this is a personal thing. I have tried pretty much all of those different things. I used to have it on my screen. The problem is, if you have it on your screen, it means you're not looking at the camera. So if I was to look at my screen now, so if you're looking now, I'm looking at my screen, but it doesn't look like I'm looking at you watching. And I think that's not so good. So it's okay if you look away occasionally. So for example, if you're looking at comments, I think that's okay. But if you're constantly looking away from the camera, I think that's a big no-no. So you want to have your notes as close to your camera as possible. That could be like an iPad very close to it, or a phone. You could print it out and you could have it really close like this. Or you could do what I've done, and that is invest in a teleprompter. Now, teleprompters don't need to be expensive. The teleprompter I have is around $100. I mean, it's not cheap, but it's not mega expensive. And so what I do is it's an iPad teleprompter, which, they're not the best, but I think they'd work really well for what I need. So you put your run of show on there. And then what I've got here is I've got my little remote control, and I can just go through my run of show here. I've got them all bullet points, so I know what to do. But this is really important. If you're going to have it on an iPad, teleprompter, or something like that, do make sure you have a backup copy printed out. Now, I do care about the trees in the world, but I also care about having a backup solution. And I can't tell you how many times the technology has failed in the past. And so if your iPad teleprompter or something like that fails, you've got this here, and I can then go back to this and not worry about the stress. There's nothing worse than getting flustered halfway through. So do print it out. Do have a backup solution. So that's what I'd recommend. Now let's talk about moving through my run of show here. So where's it all gone? Okay. So let's look through the comments here and see what we've got. So we've got loads of people just getting really excited about the run of show. Soul Bear is saying, I want to win too, especially the year of Ecamm Live. Well, who wouldn't want that? So yeah, Neil wants to win as well. Okay, so Explanatory Live is saying, is it a teleprompter or a teleprompter? As far as I'm concerned, it's a teleprompter, as in like television. Tele is something that is, I think it's far away. It's transmitted. So yeah, I think it's tele. I don't know whether that's Greek or Latin or something, but anyway, that's the way it goes. So let's go through things now. So this is, hold on a minute. That's the one. So I need to go back to page 1 here. So this is what I use for my run of show. I'm going to go through it quickly now, and then I go through every segment individually. So and not all of this is important to say. This is my basic structure. You will want to tweak these things. You will want to make this your own. So not all of these sections you will want to do. But this is what I do. I'd love to know what you think about these things, what you feel works well, what you feel doesn't work well. And of course, this is going to change. This is going to be fluid over time. This is not the live show structure that I used to have a couple of years ago. This is what I've developed now, and I'm constantly tweaking these things. So I hope that helps. Dr. Chavina Early says, what type of teleprompter? Is it on the iPad or is it an app? It's a teleprompter like television. Yes, thank you, dear. Yeah. Now, unfortunately, I've not got my other... I can't really show you this. If you look at the previous show, so the show last week, I actually gave a demo, a little tour of my studio. And unfortunately, I haven't got my other webcam that I can actually show you that today. But yeah, it basically, I've got a Canon M50 camera. The teleprompter mounts on top of my tripod. I then mount the camera on that. It's got a little 45-degree angle glass thing. And then I put my iPad just in front of it, and that reflects onto the glass, and it works that way. And then I use the Parrot teleprompter app with this remote control. That's what I do as well. Okay, I'll just answer this question from Haitian Church. What type of continuous lighting are you using? Again, if you watch last week's episode, I go through all of this, but I'm using the Elgato key light. I highly recommend that. It's not cheap, but yeah, I've never felt that I've been amazing with lighting. And I think when I got that, it just made my life so much easier, because it means you can change the brightness from your computer or from your Stream Deck as well. So that's what I'm using. I'm also using a couple of newer LED lights as well. So I hope that answers your question. Let's go back to what you need. So this is the first thing that I do is, if you watch the beginning of the show, you will have seen I had a countdown. So this is the pre-show part. This is for the live audience. I like to have this section because I want to start to get a live audience watching. And it takes time for people to join. Yeah, first of all, Facebook, if you're broadcasting to Facebook, it takes Facebook will go out and tell everyone that you're live. Well, not everyone, but it'll tell people who have asked to be notified, and fans of your page and things like that. So I like to have a countdown. I like to have some music. If you've ever watched Luria Pachucci, she likes to dance to some music. You could do lots of fun stuff there with a countdown. It doesn't need to be long. Then welcome to the show. So this is just introducing yourself. Then it's an intro to the show. What are you going to be talking about today? Then have an informal chat with either on your own or with your guest. You can also bring in your live audience as well as they come in. Now, this is great to spend a bit of informal time with your live audience, because this is just for them. This is just for your live audience. Makes them feel special. And it doesn't matter so much whether you make mistakes or you go on a little bit with your live audience, because this is not going to be in the replay and for the podcast, because you can trim this out. You can trim, once you've finished the broadcast, you can go into LinkedIn Live if you've been given access to that, Facebook and YouTube, and you can trim this beginning bit out. That's a really, really good thing to do. Downside on YouTube, by the way, if you do this, if you trim the video in YouTube, and I hate this about YouTube, it will get rid of your live chat. So sometimes if you watch a replay, you can watch the replay of the live chat. This will get rid of that, unfortunately. On Facebook, it doesn't, and LinkedIn, it doesn't. But anyway, there we go. Next, and I will come back to some questions in a bit. So now we're on to the main show, and this is where you press that podcast record button, and this is where you start trimming that video from. So first of all, what's your hook? What is this show about? So I did that at the beginning of this show. I said, in the show, you're going to find out about blah, 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 blah. Then I think it's a good idea to then play your intro video. With the intro video, if you can make it so that this is going to become the audio for your podcast intro as well, that's going to mean you have to do less. You're going to have to do less editing for later. So the video that I play, which I'll play in a minute as well, is also what I would use for the podcast. Okay, once you've done that, it's then you on camera. You introduce yourself. You say the episode number, the tagline for your show, the frequency, how often you go live, where you broadcast to, where your show notes will be for the podcast, how people can subscribe, and how people can subscribe to the podcast. I will be going through all of these in much more detail in a bit, but this is just a quick overview. Now it's time to talk about today's show. What are you going to be talking about in today's show? Introduce that. Now, I love the idea of a teaser. I don't always do this, but you want to give people a reason to stay to the end. I haven't actually given a teaser today. But it's like it could be at the end of this episode, I'm going to be sharing something really new and exciting that I'm working on. Do stay to the end, and I'm going to share it. So that could be an idea. Then it's time to introduce your live audience. If you're repurposing your show into a podcast, I think it's the authentic thing to do to acknowledge to your podcast listeners that you do have a live audience watching. And it also is good for them to encourage them to actually watch a live show in the future. So do talk about introduce your live audience, highlight them on the screen. I think that's great. Don't spend too long in it though, because that's going to be boring for your replay audience and boring for your podcast audience too. Then remind your live audience, if they have any questions, to put a capital Q, colon. I think that's just a good thing to do. If you have any sponsors, you can introduce your sponsors and your first sponsor there. And if you have a guest, you can introduce them at this point. Just introduce them with a quick bio, and you can highlight their image on the screen or something like that. And then it's time to get on with the main part of the show. Loads of things you can do here, but just my view on this is just introduce your main topic and your first question for your audience, for your guest, or what you're going to be sharing in that section if it's a solo show. Once you've done that, then do say to people who've just tuned in. So if you just if you've just joined is what I meant to say. If you've just tuned in or joined, this is the Podcaster Hour, and we're talking about how to produce an amazing run of shows. So just remind people if they've just joined, and it's also good for your podcast listeners, just in case their mind has wandered or something like that. Then start talking with your audience, your live audience, answer any questions and things like that. And of course, then you can go on to your second sponsor. Okay, then the next bit is rinse and repeat. So what's your second point going to be? Your main topic, mark 2 and question. Then remind people if they've just joined in what you're talking about. Talk to your live audience. If you have a third sponsor, you could introduce them at that point, and then you do it again. So if you have a third topic in question, I think 3 sections is a good structure to that. But then this is where it's different. I think then it's a good time to then conclude. So basically at this point, what you're doing is you're bringing together all the points that you've made in the show or what your guest has contributed, and you're summarizing it. It's a kind of, that should say summary actually, instead of conclusion. It's a summary of everything put together. Then do talk to your live audience again. Reveal your tease, whatever it was, if you have that. If you have a guest, do they have any special deals, special links or anything like that? How can people find out more about them and where you can find them? And then it's the end of show section. And I think it's really important to keep this the same every single week to have that consistency. When you're next going to go live, how people can subscribe to the live show, how they can subscribe to the podcast, what's your end tagline, and then play your outro video. So I will go through all of that, but let's go through some questions first, and then I'm going to go through that in any detail. And if there's any specific point there, any specific part of that you'd like me to cover in more detail, let me know. So let's go back. Okay, so Mullane TV was asking this a while back, I think. Question, do you put the 4 sheets in the teleprompter or just the bullet points? And actually, so the full sheet, as you can see, I don't know if you can see this. Yeah, I think that's in focus. So I've just got bullet points there. This is just the bullet points printed out. So I've got the first sentence there is, hello, let me just read it. Hello, my name's Ian Anderson-Gray, and welcome to the Podcaster Hour. It's the live show from Ecamm Live that helps you launch your podcast through the power of Ecamm Live. I've written that out in full because I want to make sure I actually get all of that in. But then the rest of it is just bullet points. So, for example, where in the world? That's to remind me to ask my live audience, where in the world are you from? Questions with a Q. That's just to remind myself to ask, to remind you, live viewers, to put Q at the beginning of it. Play intro video. That's just to remind me to play the intro video. So yeah, bullet points. Bullet points on the paper, bullet points on the teleprompter. That's what I do as well. Alex McDonald, long comment here. Because I do news shows, our rundown is different each time. There are some common elements, e.g. intro, outro. The rest is story and guest based. We use a shared note document to keep it updated. Great idea. So I use Google Docs. I think Google Docs is great because you can share that with your guest. You can share that if you have a team, for example, somebody to help you with editing or repurposing, then you can share it with them. But I still think, Alex, so that's a really interesting point. Your show changes a lot, but so does mine. So does this show in a way, because the content changes every single week. But the structure's still the same. I still have a hook. I still have my intro video. I still introduce my guest. If I have a guest, I have my reminders and sponsors, not on today's show. But I have all those main sections. So I think you can have a template, and then within that template, then you just update the bits. So your main section, section 1, section 2, section 3, say, if that's what you're going to do, obviously those are going to be different every single week. But the beginning, the bits that you talk about are going to be the same, I think. Unless, tell me what you're what you're thinking about there. Faster C says, I want to win a Stream Deck. Would be a nice addition for my live streams. Yeah, they are awesome. You don't need one to go live, but they're nice. And it works so well with Ecamm. The wonderful Martin Buckland is here. Podcasting is all about sharing your expertise, but it is just as important is relationship building. Want those relationships to last and gain repeat viewers week after week. So true. And so recognize, if you see people that come back every single time, like Martin, I love Martin. He's awesome. He comes to most of my shows, which is amazing. And so, yeah, do give them a shout out. Do give your live audience a shout out. Podcast listeners as well. If you get to know them, and do shout them out too. So I know that Katie is one of my podcast listeners as well, and she is Katie Simpson, and she's I always give her a shout out as much as I can because she's awesome. So yeah, do that. Relationships are awesome. So, question from I am Jason Allen. I am a residential mortgage lender. I educate prospects and realtors. I ask prospects to comment where they're watching. I thought about asking realtors to plug themselves. Bad idea. Well, first of all, before I answer that question, thank you, Jason. That's awesome. That reminds me one really important thing. Don't rely on your live audience for questions. Okay. Now, we're very fortunate today. We've got lots of people watching live, and you are all awesome live viewers, by the way. Thank you so much for joining me today. But sometimes you'll go live and you won't get many people watching you. There might be a problem. I've had it when Facebook has actually been dodgy and it's just not worked. And so I haven't really had either any live viewers or very few because of some technical problem. So you need to be prepared for that scenario. So have questions pre-prepared. Ask people beforehand what their top questions will be and have them. Don't rely on those live questions. In answer to this, so it could be. So I suppose I'd ask the question, Jason, why would you do that? You want to educate them. So is this a way you're wanting to help them to promote themselves? I think you have to be careful with it. But yeah, absolutely, it could work really well. I think it would be good though if you could have somebody moderating in the background, somebody who could maybe kind of just in case people go overboards with the promotion side of things. And also just to let you know, because if lots and lots of people comment, then it might be difficult live to moderate that yourself. So at the moment, I'm kind of moderating, but I've also got Katie and her team are moderating in the background as well. So that's I would experiment with it. It could be a good idea, but I think you just have to really check whether it's going to work for you. Probably not the best answer for you. You were hoping you were probably wanting a yes or no, but I think it kind of depends. Explanatory Live says, what is the best way to ask or get guests to appear on your show? Okay, so this is a slightly separate topic to what we're talking about today, but really good point. And I have talked about this in one of the earlier episodes. So what I would do is you need to set up like a system for them to book. I highly recommend using Calendly for this. Calendly.com is awesome. So I've got a whole system for people to book for my what's it called again? For my main show that I do every week is the Confident Live marketing show. So I have a link that I can give out. It puts their name, when they're going to book, their bio, all that kind of stuff. That's how I book them in. And then obviously using the power of Ecamm, you can just give them if you're on the pro version of Ecamm Live, you can give them the interview link, or if you're using the standard version, you could use Skype and bring them in that way, just by giving them a link. So you can streamline all of that really, really easily. It's awesome. So yeah, that's what I do. Yes, you're right. Your 4 sheets were the variable. I'm not sure what you're talking about there, Alex. Is that these sheets here? Maybe. Alex says, great tip. And Pastor C says, great point. When I've interviewed before, I create as a part of Run of Show, I have some pre-written questions to guide the conversation. Yeah, absolutely. When you have some guests on, do that. But also when you have a live show, it's really important to do that. And Alex says, yeah, just avoid it getting spammy. Just be careful about that. Cool. Right. So let's get on with, if you've got any more questions, keep them coming. I'm just going to share my Run of Show here. Where's it gone? Okay, I think this is it. Yeah, there we go. So I've got this as a Google Doc. This is a typical Run of Show. I haven't got everything here, but this is what I do for the pre-show slot. This is for replay audience. This is not for replay audience or podcast listeners. This is just for the live elements. So you could have some kind of countdown there. You could get a video countdown like what I've got. You could play some music. Just be careful of copyright, obviously, there. You could add countdowns very easily in Ecamm Live as well. You can just add a text overlay. So I can create one here. Let's just do one. This is a 10-minute countdown. I can just add there, for example. 5-minute, 10-minute, 3-minute, it's up to you. But that's what I do. Then this is something that I'm experimenting with. I then go straight to me and I will then introduce myself. So I've got it written out in full there. So hello, my name's Ian Gray and welcome to the Podcaster Hour. It's the live show from Ecamm Live that helps you launch your podcast through the power of Ecamm Live. Then I talk about what this show is, this episode. So this is episode 5 and it's all about how to create a successful Run of Show for your live shows and podcasts. And then it's a case of engaging with my live viewers and asking them where in the world they're watching from, to remind them about where to put questions with a Q colon at the beginning. I just have a bit of an informal chat. If you've got guests on there, you'll have just an informal chat with them. Just have some fun. Bit of a party atmosphere there. Then it's time to get on with the main show. So I would say it's time to get on with the main show. I'm going to start the show in a couple of seconds. Then it's time to press record. But the great thing is with Ecamm, you don't need to press record because it's already recording. So that is awesome. But maybe keep a note of how many minutes in you've been. So you might have been 3 or 4, 5, 6, 10 minutes. That's when the podcast and the replay is going to start. So the hook, this is what is, and this is something that I've it's stolen from Stephanie Liu. She's got an amazing run of show product, by the way. So got a run of show creator that you can use. But this is just to hook people in to your live show and podcast. So introduce who you are and what people are going to learn in today's show. And then you can say, and we'll be with you just after this. And it's at this point is when you want to play your podcast and live show intro. Now, I talked about this in a previous episode, and I will talk about this in a future episode. But I use the services of Music Radio Creative. I'm going to have Mike Russell from Music Radio Creative on next week. He's going to be showing how to sound awesome on your podcasts. We're going to be talking specifically about audio, but we're also going to talk about intros and outros. And his company, Music Radio Creative, do some of the intros and outros to a lot of popular podcasts out there. So the audio is from that, and then I used a service called Wave Video just to put the video on top of it. So if you missed it, this is part of the video with the audio for my intro.
Welcome to the Podcaster Hour from Ecamm, helping entrepreneurs, business owners, and live streamers launch a podcast with success using the power.
Okay, I won't go through all of it, but that's my intro there, which I think it makes it easier then to turn this into a podcast. I don't really need to do any editing because the music, the intro is already there. So there we go. That is the intro video there we've got. And now we're on to back to me on screen. You can add some sound effects. For example, that. There's some cheering sounds, or there's also loads of built-in ones as well. So what you then, so this is the main section. This is the main part of the show now. This is what's going to turn, what's going to turn the show. This will end up being the podcast, if that makes sense. So you then want to introduce yourself and then go through some housekeeping. So how often do you go live every week? What's your frequency? And you want to tell people where you're, how to subscribe to your podcast and to your live show as well. So that's the intro. Just remind people how to subscribe, how to find out about the podcast, that kind of thing. I hope that's helpful. Now, Alex Smith is here. He says, am I the only one who's slightly lost? I'm really sorry, Alex. I'm trying my best to go through this as best as I can. If you've got any specific questions, Alex, any way I can help you, let me know. But basically, we're going through my run of show. And remember, this will be turned into a replay, so you can watch that. And it will also turn into a blog post. So all of the information will be there. And so if I'm going through this too quickly, you can go back on that. But if you've got any specific questions, Alex, I'm here to help. There's a lot to get on here. But and that reminds me, Alex, actually, is that this is my run of show. This is quite a complicated run of show. You can simplify this a lot. You don't have to have all of these elements on it. So take the bits that resonate with you. So Alex and anyone else, if there's anything here and you think, I don't really need a hook, I don't really need an intro video, then don't worry about those bits. You can always add those bits later. I don't want any of this to stop you from launching your live show. I am Jason Allen, who says, not all who wander are lost. I like that. And Pink Salt Shed TV says, do you have a basic run of show template? If you once we turn this into a blog post, you'll have all of that information there, and you can take this and turn it into something that you want. So an explanatory live is also asking the question. Yes, all of this information will be in the blog post, so don't worry about that. So, where are we? So you've done the housekeeping side of things. This should probably say housekeeping, actually. So let's just change that to housekeeping. Okay. House. I can spell. Okay, then you introduce today's show. This is episode 5, and it's all about how to create a successful on a show for your live shows and podcasts. That's what I would say today. Then interact with your live audience. Reminder about asking questions. Talk about your sponsors. And then it is with the main section of the show there. So it's time to get on with the main part of the show. And I'm just going to, just 1 second, I'm just going to get another run of show thing here. So this is a template that I use for my live shows as well. So that was this show. But I'm just going to look at my shows. So I'm going to go to my notes. So what I do, actually, let me just share this. Hopefully you can see this okay. So, okay. So I've got all of my previous episodes. I got them in Google Doc form. And I'm going to go right down to the bottom and I'm going to double click on this here. Okay. So I've got, if I scroll down to my run of show, this is probably a better example of this. So I've got my tagline. So I say to people, this show is all about helping you level up your impact, authority, and profits through the power of live video. What is your tagline? So say that. The frequency, I go live every Tuesday and Thursday at blah, blah, blah. This is broadcast to Facebook, YouTube, wherever you're broadcasting to. You can then tell people where the show notes are. You can remind replay audience to put hashtag replay in the comments. It's always a good thing. Then how can people subscribe, and how can people subscribe to your podcast? So those are all your housekeeping bits. Then it's talking about your show today, what you're going to be talking about. Then it's your teaser. What are you going to talk about right at the end that's really, really exciting? Totally optional. Totally optional. Then it's the reminder about questions, your sponsors. You can then, I have a theme song, so I sing a little song at that point. You don't need to do that. Introduce your guest with the bio, and then you're getting onto the main part of the show. And this is the bit where you can repeat this as many times as you like. I like to have 3 sections here. So I have my main section and topic. Then I remind people if they're just tuned in that this is the podcaster hour. Then I talk with my audience. Then it's my second sponsor, question and main point number 2, the reminder, blah, 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 until we get to the end of the show where I reveal the tease. I then ask my guest if I have a guest on. Don't have a guest on today. Have they got anything exciting they're working on that they want to share with the audience? And how can we find out more about you? And then at the end, it's a case of then going through these points. I think you need when you're next going to be going live. So for me, I'm going to go, this show is live every Monday. Next week's show, I'm going to be talking with Mike Russell about how to sound awesome on your live shows. So that's what I would talk about. That's what I'd say there. Then I would say, if you want to subscribe to this, if you want to be subscribed to the show, you want to be involved in the live show, then all you need to do is go to confident.live/subscribe. And of course, this show is a podcast. Just go to iag.me/podcast and you can find out about that. So make sure you have some nice short links there. Then the end tagline. So if it was my other show, I would then say, and so I encourage you to level up your impact, authority, and profits through the power of live video. See you soon. Bye. And then it's at that point you want to play your end video. So this is my end video, for example, today. Ooh, or not. Why is it? There we go.
Thanks for watching the Podcaster Hour from Ecamm.
So that's the end. And actually, that's not a video. That's just audio. So I hope that helps. So Katie says, we'll share this information in the blog post soon. This actual topic is actually quite difficult to deliver as a live. So I hope you're bearing with me. When we turn this into a blog post, it'll hopefully make a lot more sense, and you'll be able to download a template as well. Dee Dee saying, hopping back on now. Great to see you, Dee Dee. Hope you're doing well. Asking the question, what does sponsor mean? It's a great question. So it depends whether you have a sponsor for your live show and podcast. And maybe this is something we can talk about in the future. But a sponsor is, for example, this show is hosted and sponsored by Ecamm Live. This is run by Ecamm Live. My show, I have 2 or 3 sponsors every week, and they this can work in different ways, but they pay me every month for me to mention them on the show. And I always work with sponsors that I really believe in their products, and also it works really well for my audience as well. So it's a product or a service that they will want. But most people aren't going to start with a sponsor. This is something maybe for later on. Once you've proved that you have got a good audience, either a live audience, replay audience, or a podcast audience, then at that point you can then talk to potential sponsors and see if they want to sponsor your show as well. So I hope that helps there. I don't know whether there are any more questions. If you've got any more questions, that is my run of show. That's what I do every week. That is quite a complicated run of show. So maybe something that we can do in the blog post is to share a simplified version and then a more in-depth version. Because when I first started with my Confident Live Marketing show a year and a half ago, it's almost 2 years actually. Oh my goodness. Anyway, it was a lot more simple than what I did. And I've developed it. I've tweaked it over time. And now I'm sharing with you what I'm doing today. So I hope that was helpful. Let me know if you've got any more questions. We're almost out of time. It's coming up to the hour. But just to let you know, this show goes live every single Monday at 4 p.m. in the UK. That's 11 a.m. Eastern and 8 a.m. Pacific time. And this is all about how to launch your podcast from your live show. So just as we finish, I'd love to know if you've got any more questions. Also, how are you getting on with your podcast? Have you got a podcast already? Or are you thinking about a podcast? So put in the comments what the name of your podcast is, or what you think your podcast is going to be about. Let me know in the comments about that, because I'm here to support you and help you. And just to let you know, in February, more information about this in the future, I'm going to be launching my second Launch Your Live course. This is going to help you launch a live show, but this particular course is focused on how you can launch a podcast on the back of it. So if you're wanting a little bit more help and support, if you're wanting to get that accountability, if you're wanting to learn a little bit more about the tools, if you're wanting to have some more templates, everything that you need to get started and launch your live show with confidence and a podcast, then that course is going to be for you. You can find out more. There's not much information about the next course yet, but if you go to iag.me/LYL, that's where you can find that out. So launch your live. I'm just putting this in the comments. So it's iag.me/LYL. It's not out yet, but I'll be telling you a little bit more information in the future about that, which is going to be cool. Now, I'm so excited because next week I've got my good friend Mike Russell from Music Radio Creative coming on to the show live from the Isle of Wight, which is a little island south of England. And he's been a good friend of mine since about 2015 when I spoke at his conference in the UK, New Media Europe. He is known throughout the year as an amazing audio guy. He knows everything there is really to know about audio production, microphones, that kind of thing. So we're going to be talking about that, but also how to sound awesome on your live shows and podcasts. And if you've got any questions for Mike or for myself next week, do start to think about those. The week after that, on February the 8th, is how to produce your podcast from your live shows. I'm going to be going through a full workflow, an overview of that. And then February the 15th, killer repurposing techniques for your live shows. So podcasting, launching a podcast from your live show is a form of repurposing, but there are loads of other things that you can do as well. So we're going to be talking about that. So yeah, can't wait to share that with you. Let's have a look just before we finish. I am Jason. Alan says, gotta go. Thanks. No worries. It is almost at the hour. Thank you so much, Jason. It's been great to see you. Pink Salt Shed TV says, thank you. Great to listen to. Katie Simpson says, brilliant. Thank you. Melissa says, thank you. Full of valuable information. Awesome to see you, Melissa. Hope you're doing well. Pink Salt Shed TV says, got Ecamm training now. All the best with that. Alex says, thinking about lives and ripping the audio for a podcast is going to be a dog training puppy podcast. Awesome. That's going to be great. So remember, if you just switch on the recording part of Ecamm Live, if you have a guest on, you can also separate those tracks out. And do go back to the Podcasting 101 episode when I had Colin Gray on. He talks about all the different things you have to think about for doing that as well. Soulbet Official says, a gay old time, my idea for podcasts. Awesome. Mullane TV says, I am planning to podcast some of my live streams and I am deciding which ones will be. Yeah, great. Well, yeah, it's just a case of thinking which of my live shows would it make more sense to turn that into a podcast. Just start off with one, see how you get on with that. I talked all about podcast hosts and things like that last week and the week before, and we're going to be talking about that a little bit more as well in the future. Dee, you are awesome too. Thank you so much. She says, such great value. Awesome. And I eventually want to podcast. I'm an introvert and think it would be good for me. Do you know, Dee, you might not think that, but I'm a total introvert. I really am. And I love live streaming, but it did take me a bit of effort to get into it in the first place. But you can do this. You can definitely do live shows and podcasting as well. Alex says, oh, that's cool. Awesome to see you, Alex. Thank you so much for your contribution today. Pastor C says, always contribute the additional information. Been live streaming for a year on a weeknight basis, learning a lot and still learning more. And Dee says, do you have a training for Ecamm? I'm new to this. I do lives on Facebook only. There are a number of things you can do. Maybe Katie, if you're still here, there is the Ecamm Live Academy by my friend Adrian Salisbury. He does that multiple times a year. So if you're wanting to specifically learn everything there is to know about Ecamm Live, the Ecamm Live Academy is what you need. If you're wanting to learn about how to broadcast to Facebook Live and also turn it into a live show, how to use all the different software, how to repurpose this into a podcast, then I've got the Launch Your Live show course that's coming in February, and you can find out more at iag.me/LYL. Well, I think that is it for today. It is 5:00 in the UK. So it is time. I need to get on with other stuff. I've got a big show that I'm producing tomorrow for a client, the Podcasting Business Awards, or the Business Podcasting Awards, I think they're called. So I need to get on with that. But I'd love to know what you are up to. And of course, I want to encourage you to launch your podcast. So until next time, I encourage you to launch your podcast with success through the power of Ecamm Live. See you soon. Bye.
Thanks for watching the Podcaster Hour from Ecamm, helping entrepreneurs, business owners, and live streamers launch a podcast with success using the power of Ecamm Live. That's it for this week, but do tune in next time. See you soon, and toodaloo!